Welcome to Moms of the Lou, hosted by two fellow St. Louis moms, Rebecca
and Lauren,
and recorded for St. Louis moms.
Grab your laundry basket, kick your feet up for nap time, or head out the door for pickup, and spend a little time catching up with local moms who are making a big impact in St. Louis.
Let's dive into our discussion today. All right, St. Louis moms, we're back for another episode of Moms of the Lou. Today, we're so excited to be chatting with Tara Gallina. She is the co-owner and chief experience officer of Take Root Hospitality Group here in St. Louis. And we're so excited to be chatting with you. So welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
Yes.
It's a huge honor. We love your restaurants and our families frequent them very often.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah. It means a lot, and that's why we do it.
Yeah. So we have all the questions for you today. We have a lot we want to hash through, but kind of take us to the starting point. Are you from St. Louis? Are you a transplant?
Yes, I'm a total transplant. Mm-hmm. I grew up in South Florida, specifically for Boca Raton.
Okay.
Went to college in Orlando at University of Central Florida, studied broadcast journalism, realized by my senior year that was probably not where I saw my life going at the time, but it was too late. So, already committed. I entered the job market not having any clue what I was going to do, like most people.
Correct.
Worked in nonprofit for a touch, worked for a crazy entrepreneur that was saving it for my book one day. Taught me a lot of things about what not to do in life. But it gave me the opportunity to really kind of on my own learn to cook. That was my hobby in my early 20s, was going to farmers markets, going to restaurants, watching Ina Garten, reading Julia Child, all the very cliche things that were happening in the 2000s. And really became just obsessed. I started a blog when blogs were a thing people were doing.
Long form.
It's called Fun Fearless Foodie back in the day.
Fun Fearless Foodie?
Fun Fearless
Foodie. Still
out there? Yes. I don't know.
Let's go look for it.
I think my Twitter account might still be out there. I'm not sure. But that sort of catapulted me to being really bored in my day-to-day life and dreaming about going to culinary school. And I had a relationship that ended, and I was like, what am I still doing here? Nothing.
Yeah. You were in Florida at the time?
I was in Florida. I was in Orlando. I had graduated, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to apply to cooking school and see what happens. My best friend lived in the city in New York, and I was like, what's the worst that can happen, right? I just needed to kind of get out. I got in, which I'm sure was not very hard in retrospect. They were willing to take my money, but I was pumped. And I moved to New York City, found a roommate, sort of like sight unseen. We were connected by a mutual friend, moved into an apartment on the Upper East Side. Fell in love with culinary school, said yes to every volunteer opportunity, went to school at night, worked during the day. Just, I really dove in because I felt very much that it could be over very quickly. It was like a 9-month commitment. And if it didn't work out or I couldn't afford, to live there and stay, I was going to have to go back. So I was very motivated.
Yeah. Wow. Like the ultimate experience in your 20s.
It really was. I'm not going to sugarcoat
it.
It really was. Looking back, I cannot be more grateful that I took that time to do it. And I made friendships and had crazy, wild 20-something adventures in New York City. Yeah. I was grew up watching Sex and the City in high school. So, I think
you were living that life.
I was.
And not
inspired.
Really,
but trying to. But it was just the kind of place where you could wake up every day. You could go walk outside. You never knew where your day was going to take you. And I loved that. But I worked in a lot of different aspects of food. I don't think I ever thought I was going to be a chef. That was not really, it's kind of what was drawing me. But my journalism background, I love to write. I love to, to cook, obviously. So I worked in food media. Cool. And I worked at the Food Network for a little while, which was awesome. I got to work on Iron Chef, which was one of my fun facts I put in a
That's a really cool fun fact. Yeah.
Very cool fun fact.
I got to work with food stylists. I worked at magazines. I was really just tried everything to see what would stick. And eventually I got an opportunity to do an internship later at this famous restaurant outside of New York City called Blue Hill at Stone Barns. And it was really unique. It was equal parts service and hospitality training, which I did not have, and farming. So the restaurant sits on this incredible sustainable farm, the Stone Barns Center. And it was just something that I was like, if I don't do this, I'm going to kick myself. I had a mentor at the time that was she worked there and she would help me out at the culinary school. And so she was very you should really try this.
Yeah.
It was sort of the end. The rest of my life started there, whether I knew it or not. And that was where I met my husband, Michael, who was the chef at the time at the restaurant. Very cliche, restaurant romance.
Yes.
Didn't immediately start that way, but that's where it ended. Sure. It was 3.5 years, and it was just a magical experience in the sense that it was this idyllic place it was like the Olympics of like what we could do at the time. And they were very much coming up into their like worldly acclaim when we were there. It was very intense. It was very hard and grind and, you know, maybe not the healthiest experience.
Sure. But you learned a bunch.
But I learned so much. And it really shaped, I think, who I became.
That sounds like it, because when I think of Vicia, which is one of my favorite date night spots, awesome. Actually chose to spend my 40th birthday there.
Love. Okay.
It reminds me a little bit about the concept of Vicia. And of course, I want to get a little bit back on the timeline of what made you decide to come back to St. Louis. But that homegrown sustainability effort and reminds me of Vicia a lot. You have an on-site farm or
a garden. Garden. I would love to say a farm one day. Yes. You know, a very beautiful, I think, garden that certainly supplies us with quite a lot. But yeah, Vicia was our way of sort of tying together what we had learned at Blue Hill and sort of relating that to a more obviously kind of urban environment, but with the St. Louis culture in mind. And it was nothing could ever be the restaurant we came from, but it very much shaped, I think, what Vicia became and is today. And I'm really proud. I think we are 9 years into this experiment, and you know, I think who it is and the voice we have, I'm very confident in, and I feel is its own. It stands on its own now. You know, I don't feel like I'm constantly like, well, you know, it's like the place we used to work. You know, we're kind of past that now, which feels really good.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. So.
I jumped ahead.
We did. I
know. We can come back. New York to St. Louis. Was there something in between, or did you come straight back to
We kind of came straight here. So we got married in the summer of 2015, went back to the restaurant, and I think realized it just felt different, you know. And for Michael, he was a chef de cuisine. He worked under Dan Barber, who is the chef owner, and Dan's never going anywhere. It's Dan's restaurant. You know, Michael had really hit the like sort of limit of where, you know, he could go. And not to say I certainly had more room I could have grown. I don't regret it, but you know, it wasn't the end for me, but I think we felt as a team, like we should probably kind of give something a try, right? Yeah. And not knowing what that would be or where it would be, but knowing that I think family was really important to the both of us. And so that meant St. Louis or it meant South Florida. And I love my family so much, but I didn't feel, you know, South Florida was really the environment, I think, for what we wanted to do. And so we're like, well, that leaves us one option. Yeah. So we packed up the car and, you know, sort of headed west and came back and lived with his mom and, you know, did very much just exploring, right? We wanted to get to know the community, get to know the producers, the farmers, everything, figure out, you know, did we really want to open a restaurant? And we did some pop-up dinners was sort of our initial sort of dip our toe into the St. Louis waters, and they were called Rooster and the Hen, which is our kind of old identity. Our last name is Hen in Spanish, which, you know, it's not necessarily a part of his culture, but it's, you know, what they called him growing up. And that was sort of how it came to be. So we did one, and then that turned into 21 before we opened Vicia.
Okay.
So we were
process.
Bootstrapping it out of the back of our car and borrowing whatever restaurant we could get for about a year. And that was great. But it really allowed us to, I think, get to know St. Louis and let them get to know us in a way that I think would have been more forced if we had just opened up and been like, come on and check us out, you know, because it was very much at the time built on this reputation of where we came from, you know, which was a huge advantage, and I'm super grateful for, because it allowed us to get our names out there in a way that not everybody gets the chance to. But then we had to prove it, you know. But that's what brought us back.
Did you feel like the hospitality community was a welcoming community?
100%. And we've both kind of got on record saying this so many times, but there really is something about the people here and the people in the industry that were so open and welcoming, like, use my restaurant, borrow this, borrow that. Let me introduce you to this person and
so
that
Midwest.
person. That it was so Midwest. And as a non-Midwesterner, it was very at first like, this is a little weird, you know, because this is not what I'm used to.
Everybody's so nice. What's going on?
Nice. And, you know, even for Michael, like, he'd been gone for a long time. He moved away in his early 20s and went to culinary school in San Francisco and lived there for a while, and then lived in New York for a long time. You know, so he didn't even really know kind of what home was like anymore outside of just visiting his family. So for both of us, it was very much kind of a get to know you experience. And it was awesome because we couldn't have done it, you know, without everybody's help.
Nothing is more frightening for a parent than watching their child struggle to eat or fall off the growth chart. At Sensory Solutions, they understand how urgent feeding difficulties can be, and they're here to help. Their expert team provides pediatric physical, speech, occupational, and feeding therapy for children from birth through early childhood. Whether your child is not eating, struggling to progress, or is an extremely picky eater, early intervention can make all the difference, especially between ages 0 to 4. With 4 convenient locations and evaluations within 7 business days, Sensory Solutions is here to support every family, every step of the way.
And this was before your kids were born. So you kind of had that time to do that together.
We did.
To explore it as
we had nothing besides our 2 little dogs that they were our whole world at the time.
Right.
We really didn't have anything stopping us from working crazy hours and, driving all over the place, which was awesome.
Yeah.
And what came after Vicia?
So we opened Vicia in 2017, and I don't think ever imagined that we do anything else besides that.
Yeah,
it's really hard to do.
Sure.
And there's sort of naturally this opportunity came up to buy what was Winslow's home at the time. So we knew the previous owners and gotten to know them because we loved going there. And they had a farm that so it was all we were kind of very sort of met up with each other in this sense that I had heard that they were thinking of selling and they were thinking of talking to us about buying. So it kind of just worked out really.
It's a very good fit.
It wasn't something we were actively trying to do, but I was like, I can't imagine anyone else owning this. I was like, I feel like this is our moment because we really wanted to have a casual sort of counterpoint to what Vicia was. Yeah. And so sure enough, and we opened Winslow's table, slight shift there, in 2019. And here we are today.
Right before.
Then this crazy thing happened
in the world.
Oh gosh.
I know.
Talk about timing.
We were open November of 2019.
Gosh.
It was like just when we felt like we had kind of figured out what the heck we were doing. It was like, just kidding. We're going to stop and change it all.
Yeah.
But I think that restaurant was particularly meant for that moment because of how community rooted it is.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And we became everything that we needed to be. We were, a store. We were a market. We built a window you could walk up to and buy, whatever online grocery store we created overnight. We were doing all these prepared meals and, it just kept evolving. And it became so many different things, but it was really sort of in a reaction, I think, to what everyone needed it to be.
I could see that.
It was a wild time, but looking back. But then when it kind of, when things became whatever they are now, I am really happy with what it is because I think because we came from this fine dining background and that's kind of all we knew, I think our initial sort of launch of Winslow's was too much for what I think it needed to be. And so not glad what happened by any means, but it did allow us, I think,
slow
to
down.
reset kind of and build it back to what I think it really needed to be, which was very much a place. Like the community owns that place. Like we might own it, but they really own it. And I've come to grow into that.
I love that. I used to live on Stanford, just a few streets down, and so that was my easy go-to as a new mom.
And there was
it
so
really
many
was
just
like
you.
my when it was Winslow's home, and it was just like my easy, effortless place. Actually, found out we're having another girl at Winslow's. We decided to open our. It's kind of a funny story. I don't know if I ever told you that. We opened up the gender reveal there. We bought ourselves a little cupcake, maybe a goat cheese cookie.
Yes. It was the first place I brought my daughter Olivia when she was a newborn. Before it wasn't our restaurant at the time. That meant a lot to me then, and we didn't even live right in University City. But it's really that place means not that Vicia doesn't, but in a different way. I think, especially the stage of my life, that I'm in now as a mom, it's just such a place for everyone that I'm really proud of. And that's not just because I made it that way. I mean, it's just like, it's a collective effort. But we see so many people come in, with the stroller, with I just need, we know what
Get
you
me
need.
out of the
We
house.
got you. We got you.
Yes,
don't worry about it. And we see people every single day, which is the highest compliment that we could ever receive. And my team there is just so good at knowing, okay, let your kid run. It doesn't matter. Let him run around. We got it. Don't stress. It's okay.
It feels that way.
And I'm glad to hear that because that's very much what we try to, instill in them. And that's what that place needs to be. It's for the community. Yes, I think the food is great. And I think we do awesome things above and beyond maybe what we even have to. But at the same time, it has to be a place you're comfortable coming in your sweats and, your hair a mess and who cares?
Yeah.
Yep. But also know you're going to get really good food.
Yeah. How are you managing this as a mom of 2 young kids? Like, how are you structuring your day? How are you doing this? Because restaurant world is so grueling, and how are you doing it?
Always work to be done, I assume.
I think the short answer is it's always changing. No week is ever really the same, or, just when I think I've got my schedule figured out one way, then this curveball comes in. Not even with my kids, or also just with, the team, and, this person maybe leaves, or we have someone on vacation for an extended amount of time. And I'm like, well, I'm the fill-in. And so, you have to do what you have to do for your own business. And so it's like, all right, guys, I know I said we were doing that this week, but I got to work every night. I'm really sorry. And your grandpa and your grandma are going to be here with you. And, I think in some sense, that's all my kids have ever known is our life in the restaurant. So they don't have a really strong touch point for anything else. But it is interesting that now that they're getting older, and my daughter in particular, she's obviously sees what her friends' parents, lives are like, and there's always that. Well,
but mom,
but nobody else's parents, work at night, and nobody's work on Saturday, and it's like, that's hard. I'm okay. I've learned to deal with it, and I've had my low moments of feeling really bad about that. But I try to push back on her now in a way to say, yeah, but like I can go to the 10 a.m. party at your class, right?
So
because
true.
I can make my own schedule. There are some flexibility, or we can do all these fun things on Mondays because I don't work, on Monday. And so I try to show her there's like 2 sides to it, and they're kids, right? They don't always understand that.
And she's saying that, later down the road, it always comes back where like if you think back on your childhood and you think back on your parents, you have such a new appreciation for them. I think she'll be proud of you.
I hope so too. And I thank you for saying that. I think about my own mom who worked my whole childhood. She is a nurse and worked at a skilled nursing home for children with special needs. And so she was on call all the time.
Sure. Yeah.
She was any natural disaster or whatever that was happening. That's where she was, for extended amounts of time, and would have to work overnights and all these things. And I remember somewhat feeling, a certain way about that. But now all I can remember is like, mom was a badass. Like she did a lot. Totally, and I have a lot of respect for that. And I don't remember the field trip she didn't go on. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like that's not what
true.
Sticks with you. And I try to remind myself that when I'm having those moments with my kids when they're like, why can't you come? And I'm like, trust me, I really want to be there. Yeah. So my life is complicated in that way, and no week is the same. But at the same time, I think we just learn to make it work, and you just have to be really adaptable, which is
and you're probably never bored. They're never,
Although they tell me that all the time. Don't worry.
But your schedule, it's like got to be changing all the time. So it's like
it is, which I think for kids is hard because consistency is so important, right? True. And they get really thrown by things not being the same. So I've worked really hard to at least build in consistency where there is inconsistency. If that makes any sense. With like who's with them and what they do together. And, we have Michael's family is incredible, and they all live here and are just really helpful. And we absolutely could not do it. Without
that's also
them,
very grounding too. When you have a consistent village, I feel like that is also very grounding.
Which we didn't grow up with anybody. We were on an island when I grew up in Florida because my dad is from Ireland and his family lives there, and my mom's from Philly and her entire family was there. So I didn't have a cousin in sight. I didn't have a grandparent. That was not besides holidays, right? So we didn't have that, in that sense. So I'm really thankful that they at least are going to grow up and have that village to support them.
It's a win for everybody.
Yeah.
Total win.
Okay, so do you want me to start with my
Let's do
my
it.
rapid fire? I could keep going
before we wrap up.
Okay,
Lauren's going to do some rapid fire.
I like to do a few rapid fire. Okay. Well, we have to ask you this.
Tell me.
What would be your favorite date night St. Louis restaurant be?
That's a really good question because we've been trying to plan this out recently. We don't go out a ton, to be honest, because of work, right, and kids, and so we try to do stuff with them. But we were just talking that we, with good friends of ours, was like, I really want to either go eat at Mainlander because I've never been, and it's been something I just think would be really fun and it's unique and to go with friends, and then go see a show at Jazz St. Louis, which just sounds like such a fun night. Have not done this night, but I've thought about it for a while. So that's been on top of mine. And we also love sushi. And so I've been really dying to go to Nobu Sushi, which I have not been to. I love Sato and, Indo, and we've been to those places several times, but want to try something different. So if we get a chance, that's the next 2 date nights.
I love that. It's always good to know new spots to check out. Okay. What's your favorite neighborhood to explore in St. Louis?
I gotta say my own.
Yeah. And what is that? We didn't even touch on that.
So I'm a proud Webster Grove resident.
Oh yeah, we did. Okay.
And I really like, it has everything. And that's kind of why we moved there. But as I've, kind of grown into it and our kids have grown up, like it really like food, bookstores, coffee shops, parks, literally we don't, we do go out and explore other places, sure. But like, I'm the happiest.
You almost don't need to.
No, like I'm really the happiest when I'm in Webster.
Yeah.
Webster is a very special place.
We don't own a restaurant in Webster, and I've always like thought about it, but then I'm like, I think that might ruin it for me.
Yeah, it's kind of nice to not have.
Don't do it.
Yeah.
Maybe a little more anonymous that way.
Yeah, I think so. I don't blame you. Okay, so let's just do one more. Best piece of mom advice you've ever received.
Oh,
it's a little deeper.
That is deeper. I have received.
Or that you could give to anybody, maybe to share with us.
This kind of touches on what we were chatting about, I think, before we started. And I was thinking about this on the way over because I had a feeling we would maybe talk about something like this. And I think it's very much like stop apologizing for the life you don't have and live the one that you do, because we are so sorry about all the things that we don't have, or, our house doesn't look this way, or our kids don't go to this activity, or but we also have so much, and I gotta stop sometimes and just respect that and appreciate it and know that like that is enough. And so many other moms look at me and go, "Oh, I wish I had what she had." I think that happens to so many of us, and it's really easy, I think, with Instagram and everything to get caught up in this like fake life that no one really has.
So much
and
comparison.
We can't be perfect. Trying to be is ridiculous. Having it all is not real. Leaning into whatever all the buzzword, it's built us up. I think especially like I'm in my 40s, I've heard so many different versions of this, over the years, that it's unrealistic to expect to be great at your job, great at parenting, great as a spouse or partner, whatever, all at once. Yeah. Something is always sort of not at its best.
Totally.
Right.
And you got to just, I think, check in and figure out which one's floundering and then maybe give it some attention, while the other one's okay. But having all of those things perfectly aligned, no one's life is like that.
Not realistic.
I think you gotta always remember that.
I like that.
Good word.
So what do we have to look forward to? I subscribe to your newsletter.
Thank you very much. TakeRootHospitality.com.
Just found out you have a Father's Day. Is it a cookout coming up?
Yes. Okay. So this is we're doing a first time ever, like a big Sunday dads centric. Anybody can come, of course, but very geared towards dads. Cookout at Vicia. It's going to hopefully, weather permitting, be out in our beautiful garden. But think like grilled sausages and an old fashioned bar, and just all great wedge salads and just all these fun things. There'll be some kid friendly foods too. So we are selling tickets for adults and children, which is really fun. That week is the James Beard Award actually in Chicago, and so this sort of was like spurred by the fact that we wanted to close on Tuesday because our team's going to be coming back from Chicago. We're like, all right, well, what can we do on Sunday? Oh, it's Father's Day. Yeah. That might actually be kind of cool. So that is where that came from. So I would say check it out. And then the other big news is Winslow's Table is shifting to 7 days a week, which I'm really pumped about. Yes. So that will be 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. every day. So we're losing dinner, but I think that we're gaining a lot in swapping that out. We're going to really lean into over the summer as well our prepared foods, grab-and-go options, make that a lot easier as well for busy people. But yeah, I'm just pumped that, people can just stroll in every day of the week starting June 1st.
Love that.
That's so great. We'll be on the patio for sure.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So, yes. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Tara.
Thank you. And I follow you guys religiously and really use a lot of your tips and advice and parks and all the things we go and do. So thank you for keeping us all connected.
Oh,
our pleasure. All right, St. Louis moms, we will catch you on our next episode. Thanks for listening to Moms of the Lou. We hope it encouraged you and put a pep in your step and helped you get to know our community a little bit better. Be sure to find us on Instagram, st.louis_mom. You can find us on Facebook, St. Louis Mom. You can find us on our website, www.stlouismom.com. In case nobody else tells you today, you're a great mom and you're doing a great job. Chat with you next time.